This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your heart or mind. I also would ask, wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to find this podcast. I'm also looking for the next level of leaders that I can come alongside and coach and assist. And if you'd like to see what those possibilities are, go to drronblake.com/call, drronblake/call. You'll get on my calendar. I'll give you a call and we'll see what the possibilities might be. Today I want to give you some timely advice. I realize you haven't solicited it. You haven't made an inquiry as to what advice I would give you. But my timely advice is about timing decisions and, to make it even more clear, decision making. All of us have made hundreds of thousands of decisions in our lives. There's no area of our life that is untouched by the need for you and I to make decisions. From our personal life, spiritual life, financial life, relationships, our homes, our not-for-profits, our volunteerism in our neighborhood, with our purchases vocationally, recreationally, and I could just literally exhaust the English vocabulary describing all the areas where you and I have to make a decision. One of the things that I'm going to ask today is, how do you go about making a decision? What are the things that go into assisting you when you're called upon to make a decision? We all have them. I don't mean that you can go to your desk drawer or a computer file and you have a list of, here are the steps I follow as I make decisions. But whether you have it that detailed or not, and I can't imagine that you do, you follow a process. I follow a process. Some time ago, I came across a quote from Theodore Roosevelt that at first, when I first read it, caused me to raise my eyebrows, but on further reflection upon it, it's pretty spot on, and I'm interested in what your reaction is going to be to the quote. Here it is, and I quote, "In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing." Now let me insert a comment right there. Now, I can't imagine anyone disagreeing, but knowing humans as I do, somebody will take the challenge when I say I don't know how anyone could disagree with that. He says, in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. Then he says, the next best thing is the wrong thing. And all sorts of alarm bells went off when I read that. But here's how he finishes this sentence. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. You see, we have it flip-flopped. We obviously agree with the first part that the best thing we can do is the right thing. We always strive to do the right thing, of course. We think the next best thing is to do nothing, and that the ultimate worst thing would be to do the wrong thing. But here's what Teddy Roosevelt understood. Even if you do the wrong thing and get started, you can change, go another direction, scrap it, but you have momentum. To absolutely do nothing is the worst thing, and here's the reason. Making no decision, maybe right now there's a decision that you know you need to make, and you think, I don't want to blow it, I don't want to mess it up, therefore I'm not going to do anything, when in reality, making no decision is a decision. Or from the rules of logic, indecision is a decision. To decide to be indecisive is to make a decision. Oftentimes, when I would go a particular direction and it appeared that it was wrong, There were still lessons learned, but we were still moving. We just needed to change. Now, as a leader, there are all kinds of decisions, but I'm thinking now in the leadership capacity where you serve. There are two basic kinds of decisions, regardless of what the subject matter is. There are the decisions that go along with the territory of where I serve. It's a part of the job description, if you will, for the person who holds your position or has your responsibility. The second kinds of decisions that you will be called to make, we can call them critical, we can call them a crisis, we can call them the kinds of things for which you get paid. I tell lots of people, for most of us, anyone could do about 75 to 80% of our job, but it's that 20 to 25% is why you get paid. So what is it that you do when you're faced with those decisions? Now, here's what I know happens. For the daily, monthly, quarterly kinds of decisions that you have to make, whether it's written down or not, it's a mental checklist. Here's what I've got to do. I've got to make sure I do this, make sure I do that. But when things are upset, when there is a crisis, when there is something you have to intervene in, how do you go about making a decision? Well, let's talk about the more critical one. The very first thing you have to do is you have to assess the situation. This comes from the field of triage and EMTs. They have to very quickly assess the entire situation, find out what is the most critical need at that time, and pour their attention and their resources to the most critical need at the time, and then work their way out from there. When you and I are in a crisis, there are some things that just have to be done immediately. But then we're trying to resolve the situation, we may have to step back. So you really need to have a structure or a methodology in place. How do you assess it? If you work in a team, you have staff, you're going to have a quick meeting and everybody weigh in and you begin to assess it. A part of that assessing is deliberation as well. Now, I know that for most of us, we think when we face a crisis, it is something for which we have to respond immediately, in nanoseconds, as it were. Now, frankly, unless you are an EMT or an emergency room attendant, most of our decisions are not going to be quite that pressure-packed, but there will be some that are. Most of us, even when it is of a critical nature, we have some moments, an hour, a day, maybe even up to a week, where we can deliberate. And I don't mean stalling, but I mean collecting information, making sure we understand the facts. One of these things that is helpful to me is I try to early on get input from all of those who are going to be impacted, are in fact being impacted. I will even look at and go to peers who aren't knee-deep in this particular situation just to get their perspective. They have similar kinds of responsibilities. One of the first things that I've learned in these days to really be on guard is biases that I may have. We all have biases. Confirmation bias is one that leaders struggle with. You think this particular thing that's happening right now is like what happened to you 16 years in Georgia, and you just take what you did there and apply it here. And what happens is if you had a successful problem-solving event in your past, you're going to have a confirmation bias and begin to see every problem that way. It really comes out in the illustration, if my only tool is a hammer, then every problem is a nail. And so that's why you immediately need to get input and have others looking at the problem, helping you talk it through, work it through, giving opinions. If you're the person that's the leader, it's going to fall upon you to make the decision. but try to stay a tad bit neutral. Try not to give in to your old ways of thinking and working your way out of a problem. I'm not saying that it's not good and it's not helpful. I'm not even saying that it's a part of the tools that will be used in coming up with a solution. But oftentimes others can see things that we can't because we are all limited by our past experiences and life history. The other one that goes along with that can really bite a leader is overconfidence. I used to tell young people, I'm not so much worried about your failures and setbacks as a young person. I'm more concerned that you get a lot of victories and you develop an overconfidence and beginning to relying on how you solve those problems. Now, do not hear me saying that that's not important, that it isn't a lifetime learning, but this is a new day, a new situation. Make sure you estimate what others have and you take under advisement. Again, you don't have to do everything someone says, but at this point in the decision making and trying to come up with a timely decision, you need to know, who do I need to talk to? How long before I have to make a decision? Can I sleep on it, pray on it, think on it? How long can I do this? And one of the things that I know that we're always looking for unintended consequences, and I have told you about that as well. But there comes a point where don't let that be a stalling timing event, because regardless of how often you and your team play through all of the eventual scenarios, there will be some unintended consequence that will get by everyone. One of the simplest things I do right at this point when I have to make a decision, it's old school, I understand that. I just take out a piece of paper or on my word processor on my laptop, and I just simply divide the page in half, and one side pro and one side cons. What, as people begin to talk about ways of formulating a way through, I try to have myself and the team, if I have a team involved, what would be the benefits, the pros, if you will, if we go this direction in solving this problem? And then frankly, what will be the negatives? What's the downside? What's the cons if we do in fact go this direction? I think you also need to beware at this point. Do not let someone give you an artificial date. Oftentimes people bring us crises that are a crisis of a lack of planning on their part, and now the arrival date has come and they want us to get involved to fix it. Here's in your own personal life, when I get something comes across my desk, if it takes less than 2 or 3 minutes, I just do it. If it's something that I'm not interested in, it's not helpful to me personally or to the organization or what I'm trying to do, I just delete it. I mean, I got this from David Allen and getting things done. Or the other third thing I can do is delegate. So everything comes across my desk has one of three solutions to it at that moment. I either do it. It's just quicker to do it than to do anything else. There are a few things that way. It's not that important. It's not something we're interested in. It's not something we value. We delete it. If it's something that someone else in the organization has more expertise or better equipped to make that decision, you delegate it. Well, there is a sense in which you can do that with these decisions, especially in the crisis. If you feel that you don't have all of the facts and all of the germane ideas that you need, see if you can delay. But I want to quickly throw in a caution. Delay is the second cousin of procrastination oftentimes. So don't use delaying as a stalling because you're uncomfortable with the decision you have to make. If you know what the decision is that you need to make, you don't need to delay it. You just need to make the decision. there is this idea that you can do the same thing. You can maybe delay it. Perhaps you're uncomfortable that you're waiting for a couple of reports or a couple of people to weigh in, and you just say, I'm not going to make this decision till tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with that. It could be that the problem is such that we just need to make the decision to pull the plug, start over, quit, not do it. That's almost from the task of deleting it. And then again, if it's a problem that is out of my expertise, or I really don't know all that's going on in that area, then it's a wonderful thing to delegate it. All I'm saying is you have to have a framework that you use to make these kinds of decisions. Make sure that you're making your decisions as fact-based as you can, and don't allow assumptions, don't allow the emotion of the event to take over, don't allow hearsay. My second cousin's next door neighbor's mother-in-law's cousin in another state said. Now, there'll be times when there'll be people who accuse you of not making and using facts and making a decision. Really, more important than the decision is come up with a process. Who are you going to talk to? What is the criteria? Make sure that you're not making decisions out of blind spots, that you have others check with you. And if you need a day or two to say, I will make this decision on Thursday, because by that time I will have heard from everybody, I will synthesize all that I've gotten, but I will make the decision. At the end of the day, even if it's a wrong decision, according to Teddy Roosevelt, you can change that. The worst decision you can make today, my friend, is to do nothing. Now, this has been some timely advice. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I hope today this was a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom and leave a rating and a brief written review? And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, have a great and blessed day.